Welcome to the Vandy Sports Podcast. I am your host, Chris Lee. Our guest today is Norman Jordan. He is the color commentator for Vanderbilt football and also a former Commodore football player himself. Today's podcast presented by Wellspire, Nashville's Learning and Development Center. Wellspire offers personal and professional development opportunities in a beautiful facility in the Gulch neighborhood. Stop by for an event with world-renowned speakers or host an off-site event that will wow your team or your clients. We also thank our co-sponsor, the Well Coffee House, which turns coffee into water and has a mission to bring clean water to the world. Today's news presented by Sutherland and Belk, an SEC sports-loving injury firm in Nashville. These are folks who will shoot you straight on your rights and options when you have been injured in an accident. Call them at 615-846-6200. They'll answer your questions. You may also visit them online at sbinjurylaw.com. Quarterback Riley Neal is set to return this week. Neal has missed a couple of games with a concussion that happened in the South Carolina game, actually on the first drive of the South Carolina game. The Commodores are listing him atop their depth chart for the Kentucky game. Our guest line, presented to you by Boll & Branch, started by Vanderbilt graduates Scott and Missy Tannen. I have slept on Boll & Branch sheets for years and have zero regrets. They are fair trade certified, which means they are made under safe conditions by men and women treated and paid fairly. Try them free for a month. You can return them, but you won't want to. Once you get the sheets, try the mattress. That was voted the best mattress of 2018. Go to bollandbranch.com. That is spelled B-O-L-L. Enter the promo code VANDY to get $50 off your first set of sheets. Norman Jordan is with us now. Norman, I don't know what else to say at this point other than that was a really long trip to Gainesville, and probably even longer while you were there in the press box. Thank you for joining us tonight. How have you been?
Doing great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, that was a tale of two halves for sure. The first half, I'm sitting there scratching my head saying, how are we within 14? And in the second half, I'm going, how are we this far down? And why does it keep getting worse? So it was a long, long day.
When did you sense that one was over?
Well, at first I got worried when we didn't do anything after the defense went out and did a couple of good things. And, you know, when we let a couple of opportunities escape early. But, you know, I think Florida looked like they were really ready. I mean, they looked like they were playing a team that they felt like they could win. And that's such a big part of the mentality of the game is if you go out and you play a team you think you own, then a lot of times you will own them.
Let's get to the elephant in the room. I mean, at this point, look, if they were to finish strong and win 3 in a row, I think we all know Derek Mason is back. But this team has only shown the ability to win 2 games so far. The games that it has not won, it has not even been close in. And that's really all fans are talking about right now. We could sit and break down a 56-0 loss, but frankly, who cares? So the question is, what's next? And I have heard everything. I'm sure you have heard everything. I think they're going to make a change. I'm almost sure that Derek is back next year. And the truth be known, I don't think anybody knows, maybe but Malcolm Turner and perhaps 1 or 2 other people. And let's say, I mean, I say that. I don't think Malcolm even knows because there's still 3 games to play. At Vanderbilt, the bar is low and the circumstances are complicated for reasons we will get into. So all that to say, to me, it's still up in the air. You don't think they will make a change, and I just wanted to get your explanation as to why.
Well, I mean, first of all, I mean, if you look at some of the past seasons, you got to say, all right, well, you know, they were building, and here we got a quarterback situation. All the things have gone wrong, some injuries this year, and all that. I think that goes on the plus side for Derek. On the negative side, you got, it's been a long, hard year. And trust me, I went through a couple of those when I was playing, and it's hard to keep a bunch of guys together. it's hard to keep everybody on the same page and keep everybody playing hard. I do see the kids playing hard. I don't see them getting a whole lot better, but they're playing hard. So you have to put that on that side. And on the other side, you look at the finished product that Derek's putting out. They're really good kids. They're getting educations, and the ones that don't go on to the pros have jobs, and they're employable. And, so the questions they got to answer is, are we willing to put the money into the program that we're going to have to attract a top-notch coach? Answer to that is, I know it's a really big no, but do they want to? I really don't know. But at the end of the day, this whole thing, the decision on Derek back or not, it's economics. I mean, it's simple economics. Can somebody put somebody in the stands? Can they have a full crowd? Can they make sure that the contracts are still good with ESPN and with SEC Network? I mean, it's all football's now economics. All sports are economics right now. It's a money-making business.
Well, but you don't think it's just economics. You also think that it is going to be tough for them to bring on a new football coach with the chancellor not in place. And I'm thinking a chancellor a couple of months from now will be in place, which by that point, probably too late to make a coaching change, or I guess maybe not too late if it's within 2 months from now, if it's early January, because James Franklin left, and then I think Vanderbilt hired Mason, I want to say middle to end of January. But it's a lot tougher for sure. But explain why you don't think it is easy for them to do if they don't have a chancellor.
Well, I mean, you're spending a lot of money, the university's money, in buying out Derek's contract, if that's what it comes down to. And I don't know that just anybody can pull the trigger on it, frankly. Well, I mean, I know there are a couple of people that could, but I don't think anybody really wants that. If you're bringing in the new chancellor, you're looking at the direction of the entire university, not just the football program. And there have to be some questions answered. And I do think it's like when Derek came in. Well, you said it was late January.
I think so.
Derek came in. I don't even count Derek's first year as a year, because all the hiring had been done, and he kind of slapped together a staff, and I don't even count that year.
Well, and that's true, and that gave
record.
him cover for a pretty disastrous 2014 too. He used that excuse that, well, I didn't get the coordinators I wanted, those kind of things. Which I say excuse. Those may have been legitimate reasons. I'm not saying they're not, but you do bring up a good point there.
Yeah, so I don't want us to get in that position, and frankly, I don't want to see a decision made about Derek until we know that there's something better out there that fits what we're trying to do, and we have defined what we're trying to do with the football program, with all athletics. I'm sure Malcolm's, he knows where he wants this thing to go, but you got to know where you're going before you get in the car.
On the other hand, let's say that he hypothetically knows where he's going, and he's found a guy that he thinks he can get, or a couple of guys that he thinks would be an upgrade, and he decides to make a change. The chancellor thing I understand. At the same time, I'm thinking, well, they hired an AD to do a job. You've got to give him the tools to do his job, and does that mean everybody else on campus has to stop making significant decisions until there's a chancellor too? I mean, trust me, I understand the reason why you say that, but if Vanderbilt has also hired Malcolm Turner to do a job, and it trusts him to do a good job, why would the chancellor, whether they have one or not, make a difference? I'm not saying that you were wrong. I'm just trying to, because I hear this a lot, and there's part of me that understands, but there's part of me that says, well, if you take away the power of one of your key employees to do the job that he was hired to do, that he thinks he needs to do, then what's the point of having him in the first place?
But you're also putting Malcolm in a bad situation. It's something I always counsel people on when they're dealing with their professional lives is make sure your boss is in the boat with you. it's one thing to go out and do something, and if it works out, that's great. But if it doesn't work out, you're pretty lonely if your boss isn't there with you. So I'm just looking at it from a corporate standpoint, and it's another thing to keep the ship going in the same direction, and then all of a sudden say, well, we're going to turn and go this direction. It's a lot like a head coach in his first year will go for it on 4th and 9 because he's got nothing to lose, and he's playing his freshman anyway. But in your 6th year or 7th year, you can be more reticent to go on one because you got so much to lose, in a sense.
What other factors you think play in? The buyout is one, the chancellor's another one, and the one that I hear a lot too is, well, they don't have a strategic plan in place. It's got to get approved by the board. Everybody thinks that will happen January and February. Is there a way that they could make
to bring on a coach?
Yeah, well, that and I mean, but is there a way, I guess, around that where they could say, "Hey, look, we've got big plans. Here's kind of a hint at what we're doing," or can you not even go there?
That's imaginations that go on at board meetings that I'm frankly stupid about. It's I don't know which way this thing's going. I really don't. I'll be fully supportive either way, but I'll also be fully supportive of Derek if he's here or if he's not. I think Derek's done, as I say, the most important job that a head coach has got is what product are you putting out afterwards, not just how many you putting in the pros or wins and losses. Derek's putting out good kids that are getting good educations, that are getting good jobs, and they're going out into the world, making the world a better place. So, from that standpoint, at my age, that's the most important thing. But that's easy to say when you win. But when you don't win, all of a sudden it's like, well, maybe somebody else could make these guys better.
Anything else on the job security landscape of the football program? And before we talk a couple of things about the Kentucky matchup coming up.
Like I said, I know nothing of what's going on. I try to stay ignorant about this because I don't have any need to know. I mean, people that make this decision are way above my pay grade, and God bless them, and I hope they make the right decision. I do. Again, I'll say the most important thing to me is if you can't get somebody better, stay with him. And if you can get somebody better, then you're going to have to come up with a lot of things that new coach is going to ask for.
Okay, let's talk football. The biggest thing coming out of the news this week so far, and Derek Mason said this at the Tuesday press conference. You and I are doing this on Tuesday night. Riley Neal is listed as the starter. It appears he is a full go. Derek talked about how well he has been doing in practice. Feels like he has improved. Look, sometimes you're scratching for, you're looking for anything to make a difference. Is Riley Neal's return, is that a significant thing that could maybe vault them to a win Saturday?
Yeah, no, it really is. But I think you've got to have a Riley Neal that's willing to actually make the read on the RPO, on the run pass option, and say, all right, it's time for me to take this ball and run it. Even if I only get 2 yards, I've got to keep this defense honest. Because that's what people have been doing. They've been loading up against Keyshawn, and the quarterback, it's funny. I was laughing about this weekend. It's funny how a running quarterback will keep the ball and a passing quarterback will hand it off almost every time. I'm not seeing any option there. It's just, here's what I do, so I'm going to take the ball and run with it.
Yeah, that's just another thing of a number of puzzling things. I mean, he did that at Ball State. He ran the ball a good bit. Now, maybe he's not big on running it. I don't know. But you hear all this talk in the offseason that more mobility at quarterback will open up the playbook. It'll change what they can do. I think they ran Kyle Shermer on design runs about as much as they've run any of these guys this year.
I'm not even saying they have to be design runs. I'm saying at least let's go through the motions of making the read. And at this point, if I'm the defensive coordinator and I'm playing Vanderbilt, I'm making sure that I've got that extra man on Keyshawn, and the quarterback, I don't care what happens with him.
Yeah,
If
I
you do
like.
that 3 or 4 times and the quarterback keeps it, all of a sudden you got to start playing it more honestly.
Yeah, you said it better. You said it the way I meant to say it. At least the option of the run. He may keep it, he may not. But either way, they are neither doing design runs nor are they doing run pass options, which, as I understand, and again, we didn't get to see much in August. You probably got to see a little bit more than I did, but I know that was part of what they prepared for in fall camp. So I just don't get why it is just sort of disappeared.
Well, here, let me vent for just a minute. I'm not a huge fan of the RPO unless you have the quarterback that can do it. And it all started with Cam Newton. Well, I can take Cam Newton and I can do about anything I want to do. I can run the wishbone with Cam Newton. So you had a very talented quarterback, and now all of a sudden the world wants to run the RPO, but you've got to truly run it. You've got to make the reads that you have to make. And the thing is, the reads are getting so much more difficult. I can read the linebackers and see what they're doing and who's going where and know that I need to keep this. But then you've also got another read. I need to know if I need to run or pass. And I'm not saying this truly do a full read. I'm running or you're running. Oh, wait, there's the pass. Let's sow it.
Well, and the other topic, and we've been here 1,000 times, but I feel like I have to ask because it's still a story. I mean, Jared Pinkney's not caught a ball in 2 weeks. I think Kalijah Lipscomb has caught 2 balls over the last 4 games. I don't remember exactly. I looked it up. Of course, he didn't play against South Carolina. It looks like he took himself out of part of the UNLV games. So some of that is self-inflicted. But if you told me that before the season, I would have just been in disbelief and said you were nuts. So what do they do with that now? Is that just completely off the table?
You got 2 players right there that are very talented. We know that from looking back at last year. And there's no reason you can't crank that back up at any point in time. So I can see them getting the ball to those guys. And that's frankly, I fully expected to see them come out and pass to open up Keyshawn. Usually you want to establish a run to open up your passing game. I thought they would pass to open up Keyshawn, but we couldn't establish anything early on against Florida. And granted, they've got a lot of speed in defensive back, so it's hard to get open. But Kalijah got open one time, and the ball was poorly, it was well overthrown. So you got to be able to hit those balls. And I'll say one more thing. I don't think we appreciated Kyle Shermer as much as we should have last year.
Well,
Kyle was a good quarterback.
Yeah.
I mean, he didn't have a lot of foot speed, but he ran the offense, and he was a good field general.
Anything on the defense, this has all the appearance of they're going to have to win this one 14-13 or something like that. Kentucky doesn't score a ton of points, also is giving up 20 a game. You saw Vanderbilt beat Missouri with that kind of blueprint. Now, look, if they just throw in the towel and don't show up, which I think they have done at times this year, then we're talking about something entirely different. But if they show up ready to play and prepared, then that seems to be the kind of game that this could be. Agree or disagree?
No, I agree. Very much I agree that this could turn into a low-scoring event, or it could turn into, a really high-scoring event on their part. But, you look at the Missouri game, that certainly gives you hope. You look at, Tay Daly, I thought had a really good game the last 2 games. I think he had 10 tackles at the half the game before, and, 2 picks against Florida. He's playing good football. But, you've got to keep your offense on the field more than we've been keeping our offense on the field. But also the defense has got to go out there every once in a while and do a 3 and out. And, that kind of bolsters the offense. So that obviously coming from an offensive player, or actually an offensive person, I would say.
There's been a lot of offensive stuff going around this year. But anyway,
Yeah, that's right.
Derek Mason talked about there will be some changes. He talked today. He said personnel first, but he did mention scheme. He didn't get any specifics. I've not heard him mention that all year. I don't know what that means. Any thoughts on what they may do differently?
I think at this point your blueprint's got to be Missouri. It's got to be keeping everything in front of you, keeping the running game away from gashing you, and when they do the slants, that you got to keep them in front of you and make the tackle. Yeah, Italy. I mean, it's kind of a tale of two teams right there. When you're looking at a team that could beat a lot of teams that we played this year, but and also, you have to say the resiliency to lose your starting quarterback, have your number 2 guy come in, throw an interception almost immediately, and then come back and throw the winning touchdown. That's the thing you got to have with these guys. You got to have them stay together and keep playing together and believing in each other. Otherwise, it turns into a downhill battle all the way.
Norman, at this point, I don't know what we can cover that's worth discussing. It just seems like it's the same story most weeks. But if you've got something before we end the show tonight, I'd love to hear it.
Oh, I feel for the kids. Certainly feel for the 3 guys that came back that possibly or probably could have gotten drafted in the pros. But somebody at this point in time has got to step up and be the leader. And that I think that's the way that you salvage what's going on here. You got to have a player step up, and a lot of times it's the guy that doesn't say a whole lot, and you got to have that person just step up and say, "Look, we've got to do something. Here's what we're going to do." And the people rally around him. I really think a lot of that's why Vanderbilt won the Missouri game, because they put Mo in the game and the team rallied around him. And then when he got hurt, they rallied around each other even more. So I think that's what they got to do. I mean, you just got to remain a team.
Yeah, I think you hit on some key things there. I think they really did rally, no pun intended, rally around Mo Hassan that day.
Yeah, and you can rally around Riley. I mean, make a bumper sticker out of it, but you just got to find some reason to play. And from a personal standpoint, I never needed a reason to play. I just always looked like I have finite numbers of plays that I get to play, and I want to make the most of every one of them.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
When you got limited talent, like I do and did, then you have to make the most of it.
Our question and answer session today was sponsored by Vanderbilt fan and independent insurance agent Josh Minton of Brentwood. If you need home, auto, motorcycle, renters, landlord, life, or commercial insurance, call Josh at 615-933-1979. Email him at josh@hqinsurance.com. Follow him at Facebook, on Facebook at JD Minton HQ. He's my insurance agent. Give him a try, and I think you will be pleased. Norman, I appreciate you joining us today, and I look forward to having you with us again next week.
Well, Chris, thank you, and thank all your listeners for listening in.
You bet. He's Norman Jordan. I'm Chris Lee, the host of the Vandy Sports Podcast. We plan to do 2 more of these later this week, so I hope you will stay tuned for those.